Yes, actually, I think the situation has only improved for Biden in the last couple of hours. We had actually long expected to see a situation where Mr. Trump would take an early lead in the polls as the results of in-person voting were reported more quickly than postal ballots that would take quite some time to work through the stock of. And that did play out. Now, the second part to that equation is that we also thought Biden would start to close the gap and eclipse Mr. Trump in some key states as more and more of those postal ballots were counted, knowing, of course, that more Democrats were willing to vote by mail than Republicans. Those were always going to favor him, kind of odds on. So we've seen the vote narrowing in a couple of key states, Wisconsin and Georgia in particular, and Michigan may be following behind. That could actually be the tipping points for Mr. Biden to get to 270 votes.
Yeah. We're talking about some pretty big margins in some of those key battleground states. Pennsylvania, that he was hopeful of flipping, looks difficult, even though there is still a lot of postal ballots to be counted. Do you see him making up ground in a state like Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very hard. He's now down by, 8 percentage points, 11 percentage points as of the latest. It's been a blur. And that, to me, is just going to be one bridge too far, I think, to expect that final block of votes, postal votes being worked through to really change the outcome writ large. It's not impossible, but it is very unlikely. I personally put Pennsylvania into the Trump camp, and I think we could probably be pretty comfortable about that. I also feel the same way about North Carolina. The margins are smaller there, but it's just looking harder and harder as time dwindles for Mr. Biden to make a comeback there.
What is your sense of when this might be decided in terms of hours, days, weeks?
I think we could be actually getting quite close. Wisconsin is a very important one. Really, I think it comes down to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Georgia. Those three states. Now, Georgia, we probably will have an answer later today. We know that they sent home some poll workers last night. They'll be returning today and resuming their work. We'd presume we'd have an answer later today. Wisconsin and Michigan, slightly more more question marks over the results there. But again, we've had assurances that late Wednesday, for example, could be possible. Now, Wisconsin, we see the vote now 2 or 3 tenths of a percentage point in Mr. Biden's favor. We could be just on the tipping point of a very favorable change for him there.
What it does say is that there was no big blue wave and that Trump remains incredibly popular, even if he does miss out on gaining the presidency, despite his legal challenges that he has held out the possibility of. What does it tell us about America and how divided it remains?
Just that, all of our worst fears about American polarization, no matter what your political position, are probably true. Now, Biden is going to have a very big challenge. He's coming, assuming that he does win in early 2021, he's going to have to confront a still very present pandemic raging throughout the United States, the negative economic impact of that we've already sustained, plus what promises to be another difficult 3 months ahead before he would even be inaugurated. So that's a big legislative, political, and social hurdle to get over. And I'll be trying to do that with a pretty tepid mandate from the U.S. population.
Yeah, that is the problem, that there is no big mandate really on either side. But the two men would probably handle that differently. Just briefly, the Senate not likely to go blue at this point. That would make it a very big difference if it did.
Indeed, yeah. To have Democrats in control of both houses of Congress would greatly ease that kind of need to pass big legislation in the way the Democrats see it in order to shore up the economy. But as it stands now, we've got 6 races yet to decide in the Senate, but the ones we thought were more likely to turn in Democrats' favor, in Colorado, for example, have already done so. And even in the kind of best case scenario they find themselves now, they've only flipped 1 seat in their favor in the Senate, but they need to flip 3 or 4, again, if Biden doesn't win the presidency, in order to regain the Senate. So that's looking at the moment like a very tall order, perhaps too tall.
Interesting. Cailin, appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much.